Women's cricket doesn't generate enough revenue. Women's cricket doesn't bring the same crowds. Women's cricket doesn't have the same viewership. For years, we've had the same argument. But here's the real question. If women's cricket is growing faster than ever, why are women cricketers still paid a fraction of their male counterparts? I'll try my best not to draw false equivalences and to keep my biases aside. But this isn't just about comparison. Let's start with central contracts. I'll be sticking to the big three, that is BCCI, Cricket Australia and the England Cricket Board for my monologue. Because they're the only ones publicly sharing these data points consistently. BCCI offers men's contracts and women's contracts to its cricketers. And they've divided it into 3 tiers. Of course, with men's contracts, they also had an A+ tier, but they decided to do away with it starting 2026. So male cricketers with a grade A contract are paid Rs 5 crores, grade B Rs 3 crores, and Rs 1 crore for grade C. Now the same numbers for women's cricketers stand at Rs 50 lakhs, 30 lakhs and 10 lakhs for grade A, grade B and grade C respectively. With Cricket Australia, going by the 2023-24 data, the average retainer for a male cricketer contracted by Cricket Australia was approximately 951,000 Australian dollars, while that of a female player stood at 140,000. Even when it comes to their premier franchise league, WBBL total player payments stood at 7 million Australian dollars, while BBL total player payments was nearly 4 times that at 26.5 million Australian dollars. In England, it's hard to arrive at just one figure by virtue of their flexible contracts, but the range paints a clear picture. In 2025, male cricketers were awarded contracts ranging from £130,000 to £800,000. However, the range for female cricketers stood between £90,000 and £130,000. In the 100, men are paid anywhere between £31,000 to £200,000, with the range dropping by almost 70% for women, who are paid between £10,000 and £65,000. One can understand that men's cricketers bring in more viewers to stadiums and have a wider reach compared to women, which in turn results in better payouts for them. It's still hard to justify that an average male cricketer in these nations makes at least 6 times more than the average female cricketer. And we're talking about 3 of the most progressive boards when it comes to this issue. There's no way for me to confirm this, but it's also difficult to believe that these numbers are better for some of the less fortunate boards. Also, the more revenue generated equals better pay logic seems sound only on the surface. When you dig deeper, you can argue why greater revenue is being generated in the first place. Men's cricket has had over 100 years of structured funding, sporting evolution and fan following, along with technological advancements, stronger broadcast muscle, prime scheduling and a marketing machinery so well oiled, it would put Bollywood's PR game to shame. If we want to generate more revenue, we'll also have to package the product in a way that's easier for the audience to consume. By scheduling fewer games, providing inconsistent broadcast slots to accommodate men's fixtures. Mind you, the WPL final was played on a random Thursday. Playing matches in secondary venues to supposedly create women's cricket centres and giving them step-sibling treatment through poor marketing. Not sure how many outside hardcore fans even know that India is touring Australia as we speak. We are essentially asking the sport to win a battle it's been set up to lose. Revenue is not just performance-driven, it's investment-driven. So, if greater revenue equals higher pay, then we mustn't forget that increased investment equals greater revenue. The 100 is one of the best examples for that. There was an extensive on-ground activation campaign for the Women's 100 in 2025. The edition broke global attendance records for a women's cricket competition, drawing nearly 350,000 fans with over 580,000 total tickets issued across the competition. We've seen what happens when matches are marketed properly. Stadiums fill, TV viewership increases, and sponsors follow. Now, let's talk about everyone's favourite point while highlighting the sport's progress. Pay parity. Even with boards such as the BCCI, CA and ECB, the ones that have announced pay parity, the structure only applies to match fees and not the total earning potential, something that either gets conveniently forgotten or outright ignored. To put things in context, look at how much a male cricketer made versus his female counterpart in these 3 nations purely on the basis of match fees in 2025. The women's teams played at least 30% fewer games than the men's teams. Longer bilateral series are almost non-existent in women's cricket. The last 5-match women's ODI series happened in November 2021 when Pakistan took on the West Indies. Then, there's the longest format. There was only 1 women's test in all of 2025, and there's been only 1 instance of more than 3 women's tests in a calendar year in this millennium, when 5 were played in 2002. 24 years ago. It's no surprise that most of the pay difference comes through the highest paid format, tests. This is reflected in the fact that women's payouts are disproportionately lower compared to the games played. Even in franchise leagues, this disparity exists. In 2022, CVC Capital secured the IPL franchise Gujarat Titans for INR 5,625 crores. A year later, the WPL franchise Gujarat Giants was purchased by Adani Sportsline for INR 1,289 crores, nearly one-fourth of what GT was purchased for. However, these valuations have hardly been reflected in player salaries. Cricket is already one of the poorest sports when it comes to revenue share for players. The fact that last year's WPL mega auction allocated teams a purse of just Rs 15 crores as opposed to Rs 125 crores for the IPL teams is difficult to digest. Pay parity addresses the symptom, not the disease. The mushrooming of men's franchise leagues and legends leagues across the world has ensured that male cricketers of decent quality have a shot in monetizing their talent irrespective of age or nationality. I get that it is a bit too much of a sweeping statement. These leagues come with their own biases and preferences. But on the other side of the wall are just 3 major women's leagues and a WCPL that often overlaps with international cricket. A step in the right direction was removing the prize money gap at global events, with the 2025 Women's ODI World Cup having a prize pool of $13.88 million, greater than even the 2023 Men's ODI World Cup. Prize money is just one slice of the income pie. Calendars, contracts, leagues and sponsorships. We still know there's a gap in the ecosystem. Are things actually improving? Yes. Is the growth consistent across teams? Probably not. That's why it becomes imperative that the ICC ensures it focuses not just on elite cricketers or boards, but also on those at the other end of the table. More boards professionalizing women's structures would go a long way towards improving competitiveness. The growth curve of women's cricket right now is steeper than men's. Better broadcast deals, global superstars, new leagues, Olympic inclusion, the economics are changing. Just maybe not at the pace we fans would like. To be clear, this isn't entirely meant to be pessimistic. It's important to acknowledge the massive steps taken in the last few years. It's also equally important to ensure that given the current momentum, those in power don't get complacent and allow inertia to creep in. Women cricketers aren't underpaid because they lack talent. They're underpaid because the system around them is still catching up. The real test isn't whether the game is growing. It's whether boards are willing to invest before the revenue peaks, not after. If you care about where women's cricket is headed and not just where it stands, please subscribe to the channel, because structural shifts are just getting started.